Yo, what it is? People, we back. Another day on Keep It G News. And today we taking it back to Clubhouse, man. And this audio I'm going to play for y'all is from my man, Dell, man. The answer. It's off of his page. So, if you want to hear the whole audio, check it out over there. But I got a few discrepancies. You feel me? And I'm glad that, Trife GANGSTA, which is Banger Brother, decided to come over there and speak on this Taxstone and Troy Ave situation because he gave us all the facts. But they was facts spent in a way for it to make sense for Troy Ave. Now me, I don't got no dug in this fight. You feel me? I don't really care for Troy Ave or Taxstone. I just want to get the information right for the people. Because a lot of the things he said, I don't know if it was done on purpose, but he spent it. And it was incorrect information. You understand what I'm saying? And to all my people over here, man, we ain't gonna get this nowhere else. I promise you that. You know, because this narrative been getting spent for a day now, and I haven't heard not one person come out there and correct it. Now, I heard Wack, he's standing on what he's standing on, which is true. He took the stand, he told. But it's a little bit more in detail than that. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what we're gonna do with this video. You see what I'm saying? We gonna go into detail, and we're gonna depict certain parts of what Trife GANGSTA said as far as the relationship with Troy Ave and did he tell, and you know, this letter. We're gonna talk about the letter. You feel me? Because that's all they mentioning. This letter. Like, what's the letter? I know that's what I was thinking. I'm sure I couldn't have been the only one. So I'm gonna introduce this letter to y'all. You feel me? And this letter is not just a letter, it actually got a name. And I'm gonna get to that. But before I get to that, I want you to hear what Trife GANGSTA had to say.
To law enforcement, up until months later,
after he found out that Tax sent the letter to the judge.
Correct. That's my understanding. The fact that case wasn't even on his lap yet. Yep. He had a gun charge and he wrote a full statement, then tried to tell about his attorney did it. That's your attorney. The attorney cannot do nothing without your approval. Bottom line, I knew my mic.
So he kind of touched on it in the beginning. You know, he said Taxstone wasn't giving him a bail. So his lawyer and Taxstone, you know, he definitely said that, came with this letter. And this letter basically was slandering Troy Ave. So what is this letter they talking about? You know, because I've been in these type of situations. I was locked up for the same type of charges. So I know about any letter that you're going to write to the judge. And off the interpretation that they gave, even though he said lawyer, I was thinking like, you know, Taxstone really put the pen to the paper and, you know, gave a full statement or a full account of what happened and he sent it to the judge. Well, that's not what happened. So this is the letter. The New York County District Attorney Office immediately arrested and indicted an individual by the name of Roland Collins, aka Troy Avenue. Mr. Collins is a recording artist whose artistry is filled with a glorification of narcotic sales, shooting, and possessions of firearms. Mr. Collins has also had members of his entourage assault other recording artists. Members of Mr. Collins' entourage were also involved in another club shooting whereby an innocent bystander was shot and injured in a New York City club. Specifically, a member of Mr. Collins' entourage who was known as Banger was charged with that shooting in New York County by a Manhattan District Attorney's Office. At the time of the incident that occurred on 5/25/16, Banger was out on bail for the shooting incident. During the incident on 5/25/16, was shot and subsequently died. Mr. Collins was investigated as to that incident and charged. The firearm charged in the indictment against Mr. Campbell was recovered from a vehicle associated with Mr. Collins along with 2 other illegal firearms. Mr. Collins is observed on video surveillance firing that same weapon in which Mr. Campbell is accused of possessing. The government alleges that there is DNA present on the firearm of Mr. Campbell as well as 2 other individuals. As the court is aware, both parties are currently awaiting the OCME DNA file. Mr. Collins is currently being charged with possession of this firearm, attempted murder, and other related charges in Manhattan Supreme Court stemming from the incident on 5/25/2016. Mr. Collins is currently out on $500,000 bond. Mr. Campbell has not been charged by Manhattan District Attorney's Office in regards to that incident. Despite the government request for detention, Magistrate Peck set bail at $500,000 personal recognizance bond to be co-signed by 5 financially responsible persons and further secured by $350,000 cash or property. Travel restricted to the Southern Eastern District of New York. Surrender all travel documents and passports. Strict pretrial supervision with drug testing and treatment. Home detention and electronic monitoring. More serious allegations being filed against Mr. Campbell to date. Mr. Campbell is not indicted in state or federal court with any allegations of assault or murder. It is undisputed that Mr. Campbell is gainfully employed as a podcaster for Loudspeaker Network, which is located at 42 Broadway, New York, New York. In fact, the government has alleged in their narrative for detention that Mr. Campbell's motive for the crime stemmed from comments made in his podcast. The government has also made assertions concerning Mr. Campbell's prior gang membership. It's public knowledge and evident in several episodes of Mr. Campbell's podcast that he is against gang membership and denounced the gang membership. Mr. Campbell's podcast is a variety show that is diversified in topics as well as guests. In fact, Huffington Post has described Mr. Campbell's podcast as one of the most intriguing podcast shows in 2016. After several mistakes in Mr. Campbell's life, has made efforts to change his life around and seek redemption through his occupation. When Mr. Campbell was made aware that he was being sought for arrest, he promptly retained legal counsel. At no point in time since 5/25/16 has Mr. Campbell been at risk of flight. The criminal matter against Mr. Campbell is not overwhelming. The case hinges on forensic evidence as well as eyewitness testimony. Forensically, the government has alleged that other individuals were in possession of that firearm that Mr. Campbell was under indictment for. In fact, the government concedes that Mr. Collins is observed on video shooting the firearm. The government concedes that the firearm was recovered from a vehicle associated with Mr. Collins and his entourage. Mr. Collins has been charged with serious allegations in state court concerning the same narrative of facts stemming from the incident on 5/25/16 and is currently out on bail. Conclusion. Based on the above reasons, the defense will request Your Honor consider reinstating the bail conditions set on 1/17/2017 by Magistrate Peck. Now, before I get to this letter, right, one of the things that Trife Gangsta said was incomplete. You know, he said that Taxstone got together with his lawyer and concocted this letter, and that's not what actually happened. So, this letter is basically a letter trying to get Taxstone bail reinstated. He had a bail at first. Now, I don't know if he made bail or not, but y'all heard it's called, he's saying he wanted to be reinstated, so that means he had a bail previously. Now, the bail got snatched. Why did it get snatched? You know, because another thing, if you heard what Trife Gangsta said was, at this point, and in this letter said, at this point, Taxstone is not arrested for no murder. He just arrested for the gun charge. So, did he have to sign off on this letter? No. This letter is basically just a statement of facts. You understand? This was the facts at the time that they had. Troy Avenue had the gun. They said they was waiting on the ballistics. That's the OORC or whatever words it was. That's what that was. That's the ballistics. That's the fingerprint evidence they was waiting for. But at this point, they didn't have it. The only thing that they had was Troy Avenue on camera shooting a gun. So, it wasn't a snitch letter. You know, that conversation that goes similar to like, yo, Taxstone called his lawyer. Man, look, man, I need you to try to get me another bail. All right. The lawyer writes it up. Taxstone didn't have anything to do with what was said in this letter. And basically, what was said was what was the truth at the time. And that's all they could go off of. So, I can't put a snitch jacket on Taxstone off a letter that is basically just protocol. You know? Anytime you're going to write for a habeas corpus or a bail reduction or something like that, you're going to have to give the statements. Now, the reason why they brought up the murder is because they knew this was coming down the line. They knew this murder was coming, though he wasn't charged with it. They figured that he's being held there on this gun charge because of this murder, and they wanted to figure it out. And that happens a lot of times in court cases where a guy might get locked up for something else, but his charges are pending. You feel me? And they know this investigation is going on, so they're going to keep him there. They're going to no bail him until they figure out exactly what happened with this situation. And that's what that was. And that's why Taxstone lawyer decided to put that in the paperwork. That's why he brought up Trife Gangsta. That's why he brought up the past relationship with Troy Ave and the thing that they did at the other club. Because it was all vital for Taxstone to get out on bail. But it's not a snitch letter. You understand what I'm saying? And that narrative is getting pushed real heavy on the internet. And I haven't seen nobody really get out there in front of it and tell the truth. You feel me? Like I say, I don't care either way. You know? I hate to see people go to jail for life, but Taxstone allegedly took a life. So you got to stand on that. But it's another thing that also stuck out to me in this letter.
Taking Ab's testimony out of the whole conversation, his own man's cooked him. It's a federal wiretap. The feds knew what happened the same night tapping Malcolm's phone. They tried to stop that audio of Casanova calling Malcolm, the same person who Tax met with the night it happened, the same person he stayed with in California for 2 weeks. When they played that audio from the night of and Cass leaving the venue talking about, yo, Tax just shot. You can't dispute that. The jury heard that. In this trial, that audio was played. That wiretap is what got them to get Malcolm, his man, to start talking about the situation with him and Tax telling him
now
what happened.
I gotta backtrack for 1 second. You know, back into the letter again. Because it was one thing that was important that I forgot to mention. Because a lot of people would wonder, why would they mention Banger in this letter? You know? You feel me? Because the case, you know, he's dead and gone. But this case is between Troy Avenue and Taxstone. At this point, this is all we know. So the reason they did that is because Banger was a suspect in one case and a victim in the other. You feel me? So they try to do that as to paint them out to be the bad guys. This is a tactic. You understand? Taxstone attorney is looking out for Taxstone best interest. He don't give a F about what's going on with Banger and Troy Ave. You see what I'm saying? His sole focus is to get his client out of trouble. You know? So in order to get his client out of trouble, you might gotta throw the other people under the bus. And then you hear when he get to talking about Troy Avenue, he get caught with the gun. Now, why would Troy Avenue allegedly do this shooting? You feel me? Whether if it's his fault or not, and I'm gonna get to that because it's something else I want to show y'all that came out in court. But why would he keep the gun? Like he was holding it as some type of trophy, you know? Because a case can be made that if he didn't get locked up with that gun, shit, he might wouldn't have got locked up at all. You feel me? Like, why take the gun? It really didn't make no sense to me. And it made the case look like he did it. Without Taxstone saying anything, because at this point, I don't see anything Taxstone said. Like I say, the lawyer write those papers up. You don't have a say-so in it. You don't tell them what to write. They got paralegals and things like that for those type of situations. But let's talk about Casanova. Casanova actually ruined the case. And that's why I said what I said in the beginning. If Troy Avenue just would have sat down, been quiet, all the evidence would have came out anyway. They would have got the ballistics. They already had Casanova on the phone call. That's why they was holding Troy Ave. That's why they was holding Taxstone. Because they had Casanova on the phone call talking too much. Basically admitting it right after it happened. So Troy Ave didn't have to say anything. Then you got to factor in, because this is very important. Troy Ave is getting a deal to take this stand and send Taxstone to jail. If that's not a rat, I don't know what is. Now, I know he was in a tight situation, but this next thing I'm ready to show y'all is that Troy Avenue sparked the whole situation. So it's like, yo, you can't, mind you, I don't know how the beef started. We got Taxstone on wax talking about how he don't like Troy Avenue, how he want to bully him. Cool. But then you got Troy Avenue and Banger actually went there knowing Taxstone was going to be there. Now, they thought it was going to be a fight. And things didn't go as planned, you know. They didn't expect for these guys to have guns in the venue, which they did. And if you heard Taxstone in this podcast and he was talking about this, he said this is how he would carry the situation. Now, when Banger said he was going to punch Taxstone, he looked at Troy Avenue. Troy Ave had a decision to make. He could have told him leave it alone. But what did he say he do? He winked his eye. And then Banger swung and things went haywire. So you can't get to make those type of calls and then when things go left, play the victim when you was actually the suspect in the beginning. So I'm not rocking with this Troy Avenue didn't tell jacket. I'm not rocking with that because all the facts is the facts and they actually started this confrontation. They just didn't go how they thought it was going to go. They thought it was going to be a fist fight, but Taxstone wasn't going for that. You know, I'm sad Banger had to lost his life in this situation, but this goes down to Troy Avenue just not being a good leader. Because how do you get your main man in the same situation twice? That's why they brought up the shooting in the letter. You understand what I'm saying? To paint them out is to be the problems. Because at the end of the day, they the ones started it. Now, I'm not saying things wouldn't have kicked off without the thing that Banger did and the wink of Troy Ave, but these are the facts. This is what we know. And I think as long as Troy Ave would have sat down there, stayed quiet, he wouldn't have had to make no statement. He would have been alright. But Troy Ave wasn't trying to go down for them guns because he got caught with 2. And he's already a previous convicted felon. So he's telling to get off the deal. He's not telling because he ain't have no choice. They'd have figured it out anyway. All the evidence pointed to Taxstone. But he didn't want to do that. And he used this letter, which was nothing simply than a protocol as a way to get his bail reduced. Because I think he was sitting on a no bail at the time. He used that letter and played on the fact that most people don't know the law. And said that Taxstone snitched, so he ain't had no other choice. But that's not what happened. Straight up. You know what I mean? And that's about it, y'all. And that's the last thing I'm going to say about this case. Because it's actually messed up, yo. Because none of this, it didn't have to go like that. You know, I said it a lot because a lot of these situations just boil down to pride. And pride got both these guys in a messed up situation. It got Taxstone in prison. And it got Troy Avenue labeled as a snitch. And it got Troy Avenue best friend, which is Banger, who is Trife Gangsta brother, dead. Let me know how y'all feel about this in the comments, man. Let's keep it G News. Make sure y'all like, comment, share, subscribe, support the movement, and I'm out.
I'm probably gonna die if I lead a clan. You got your turn and you turned your back. You turned around, ain't no turning back. I can't be the boss and no us and that. I'm bringing bow and I'm bipping with 2 times. I bought the drink and the kid got a coupon. Make 20,000 a neck on a futon. Sitting out, cause my brother in Jumon. Why you telling people you selling fentanyl? Why you telling feds you selling shit at all? Why you telling cops if you about to get it all? I'ma tell you now, then I'm already squeezing. You be dreaming about your dreams. I be living out my nightmares. I been missing, I been bad. The other night she was right there. I be lurking with my bros. I be crying with my mom. She be praying to the Lord that I don't turn into a monster. You be dreaming about your dreams. I be living out my nightmares. I been missing Kevin Bates.